What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Zamboni. I am an herbalist and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sending me a tip via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Thank you for hitting that save button in the corner. Thank you for telling a friend. Thank you for being here with me every week. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all really make this whole thing possible by being a part of this community. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So, this is one of those reshuffle weeks where we don't see real major aspects taking place this week as much as we see like stuff moving into new positions and getting a new angle on things. So one of our most important things that's going to take place here is we've got Mars moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius. So Mars has been in Scorpio for a little bit now. Mars really likes being in Scorpio. This is a home placement for Mars. This is really good for the Mars things. It's been tough because Mars has been in a square relationship to Saturn, and so there have been obstacles, there's been friction and this kind of thing. But at the same time, we can, I know I personally have felt a lot of motivation to do the Mars stuff, to get in there and to really try and to handle stuff. And there have absolutely been obstacles and delays in this kind of thing. But at the same time, there's a lot of push that has been available with that. As we move with Mars into Sagittarius, then the vibe changes. So Mars moving into a fire sign, this is still cute. I like actually Mars in Sagittarius and Mars in a fire sign. This is going to put Mars into a sextile relationship with Saturn rather than a square relationship. So this actually looks like they want to complement each other. They want to work together in some way. That feels really like helpful and nice to me. This also is going to put Mars into a sextile relationship with Jupiter, which is the ruler of Sagittarius as well. So to have them sort of like seeing eye to eye might not be the right word for it, because Jupiter is sort of like winning, but to see them like not beefing is cool. You know what I mean? It's just like cool for Mars to not be fighting with everyone. Now, of course, in order for us to get this nice Mars, then this is also going to be Mars conjunct the South Node, and that's going to happen fairly early in the week. And so Mars conjoining the South Node, I've been talking about Mars and Sagittarius like it's cute. Mars on the South Node, not as much. There's, you know, we gotta get through it. The South Node is a lot about decrease. We see a lot of sort of disappearance showing up at the South Node, this kind of thing. We just had some we've had a bunch of eclipses on the Sagittarius and Gemini axis, and we just had one recently that is likely to sort of come up again. Some of these same themes that we're about, we're tired of and about ready to put them down. At this point, we do see Mars sort of coming in there and activating that in some kind of like violent or aggressive kind of way, especially on the Sagittarius side of things. I've been talking about the divestment from the paradigm or something like this. And so this looks like, to me, it feels like the whole thing that's going on right now is so very confusing, and like the parts don't all add up, and like there's something isn't quite right about all of it, right? And so this feels like more of that kind of confusion as we see the sort of like big pushy stuff going on in Sagittarius in the divestment sphere. Then it feels like there's some kind of major situation, and it looks like it wants to be explosive, explosive in the way that the South Node is, you know what I mean? Like bad diarrhea or big vomiting or something like this is a lot of the way that I like to think about the South Node, right? What does that look like on a societal level as well as what does that look like on a personal level? We can sort of see that stuff coming up, so just be aware of that, especially as Mars moves into Sagittarius. Immediately, that's going to real quick be Mars on the South Node. As Mars moves away from that and starts to begin to sextile Saturn, for example, and Mars isn't actually going to perfect a sextile to Jupiter before Jupiter moves into Pisces. But and then when Jupiter moves into Pisces, that's going to be really nice for that Mars as well. So as Mars moves away from the South Node, we can see that being much more productive, much more helpful. So there's a little bit of some rough stuff that goes on here right at the beginning with Mars moving into Sagittarius. But, we'll see what we can do with it. And speaking of seeing what we can do with it or how we can work with it, maybe actionable information or something like this, we also have this week Mercury moving from Sagittarius into Capricorn. So this is actually, I'm pretty into this. When Saturn is not like being such a Debbie Downer on everyone, then like I like Capricorn placements. I feel like there's like you can get a lot of good stuff out of this, especially with Mercury. So Mercury doesn't like being in Sagittarius very much. That's opposite to Gemini, and that therefore an uncomfortable placement for Mercury to be in. As Mercury moves into Capricorn, then there's something much more sort of like solid, grounding, understandable. There's something really comprehensible about the way that Mercury in Capricorn operates. Mercury in Sagittarius can be a lot, there's just like a lot of words going on and just like a lot of Mercury happening in that space. As Mercury moves into Capricorn, and we've still got a dignified Saturn, right? Saturn's not in Capricorn, but Saturn's in Aquarius and very comfortable and strong, powerful in Aquarius, able to do the Saturn things. As we've got Mercury moving into Capricorn, then there's it feels like things want to be a little more intelligible, or even if so thinking about Mars in Sagittarius with the South Node, and it's all a little too confusing, and I maybe have to divest or let go of the sort of official reality or whatever. As Mercury in Capricorn, it's like maybe I don't have all the information, but I have enough to make a move. I have enough to try something, right? And Capricorn, one of the nice things about Capricorn at this point is that it makes a trine to Uranus and Taurus. And so everything that is in there making a trine to Uranus and Taurus, it's gonna sort of feed this innovative, experimental kind of vibe that Uranus is so strongly committed to. This is going to, but it's actionable in some kind of way, because it's so practical. These earth signs, they really want, like boots on the ground kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like we want to figure out at least enough to make a move. This sort of makes me think about what I hear sometimes about people talking about being unafraid of making mistakes, because at least if you've made mistakes, then you've learned some stuff, right? It's better to go 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction than it is to stand still, because if you're standing still, you still don't know which direction is the right direction. If you go in the wrong direction, then at least you've got some information. You're like, yes, this is not the right direction. Maybe I'll go in a different direction at this point, rather than the paralysis the paralysis of analysis that can happen, right? It's like, I don't know what to do, and so I just stand here, right? So this, to me, I really like this Mercury in Capricorn. I feel like that's going to be helpful and innovative in a nicely experimental but practical kind of way. Capricorn is a sign that prefers to be a little bit on the conservative side of things. It wants to sort of like, maybe a better word is traditional, right? It wants to harken back to the old ways of doing it. And so, this while trine to Uranus, and this trine is whole sign. It's going to be exact next week, but this trine really feels like it wants to maybe try doing something the old ways, or we've seen like ancient revivals that might be interesting to this Mercury. It's also particularly interesting that we're going to start to enter the Mercury retrograde shadow pretty soon. Mercury is going to ultimately station retrograde in Aquarius, but is going to come back into Capricorn. And so all of this stuff that's going on with like Venus and Pluto, for example, Venus is going to be hanging out with Pluto all week. I talked about that all week last week. The station is going to happen at the end of the week this week. We'll probably talk more deeply about Venus retrograde next week because it's actually going to be retrograde. Although with any of the retrograde stations, then you're going to want to give that a little buffer time on either side, maybe 5 days on either side or something like this. So that's going to be all week this week and all week next week, more or less. So this Venus Pluto and Venus retrograde stuff that's going on here, that's also going to get pinged again by the Mercury retrograde, which is now we're not going to be into the shadow period this week because Mercury is just entering Capricorn, and the retrograde stuff is going to be at the end of Capricorn. But we're starting to see some of these themes show up here, and the practicality of it really wants to come through in some kind of important way. So, this is the way that I am thinking about this week is that it's a reshuffle. We've got some new energies at play here. And so there's a little bit of time for us to sort of figure out what the new vibes are going to be. There's some new Mars in Sagittarius, which is going to want to push in a direction that Mars in Scorpio wasn't doing. There's going to be a little bit of a lift off of the Scorpio stuff. So Scorpio and Aquarius stops being quite so crazy and all this. That was like super wild for a little while. That's going to sort of calm down a little bit. And we're going to be moving toward the new thing. Now, of course, we're getting closer and closer to the Saturn-Uranus square. Those are mutually applying, right? Saturn is moving forward and Uranus is moving backward. And so those are applying to each other in a square. And so even though that's not going to happen again until next week, this is big time here, right? And to me, I like seeing like Mars and Sagittarius, for example, in relationship to that, because that is going to that'll add some fire to the Saturn air, right? It feels really motivational, although it is potentially uncomfortable due to the volatility of it. There's something that's sort of exciting about it, and there's stuff to be excited about. I'm pretty into it. Especially as stuff moves into Capricorn. I like these Capricorn placements this year. Their opinions vary wildly on that, but I'm pretty into it. And, no matter what happens, what I feel like has been coming through is that wild shit takes place in the world, right? But it's still beautiful to live in the world. It's still exciting. There's still so much life that is possible here, and so much thriving that can take place even in the midst of apocalyptic circumstances. And I feel like Mars in Sagittarius making a sextile with Saturn, even while Saturn is dealing with this bullshit from Uranus, I feel excited about it. And I want to thank y'all for being with me throughout this journey. Thank you so much for being here. I hope it's been good for you, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, girl, I'm so bad at this. I always forget to plug shit at the end. Don't forget to get a reading. I do ZamboniFunk.com. You can also go to my Patreon where I do Astro Basics. I'm also doing a lot of sort of live community events, and so you can come to those events, and we participate in healing ceremonies and all this sort of stuff. Make sure and check all that shit out. And even if you don't, whatever. I appreciate you all the same. Thank you, boo.